Shalom everyone and welcome to Busisiwe, blessed in English and Baruch in Hebrew, which means increase, fruitfulness and multiplication. My name is Abigail. We started a series on the end time sequence of events, the purpose of which was to prepare ourselves for His coming and align ourselves to Yahuwah and to His word. We mentioned before that when Yahusha came the first time around, He came as a deliverer. He came to deliver the world. But when He comes the second time, He will come to judge the world. And the word tells us that before He judges the world, judgment will begin in His household. It says judgment begins in the house of Yahuwah. So as a result, we of the household of Yahuwah needs to prepare ourselves for judgment will begin with us. It is for this reason that even with this sequence of events, we started talking about the first event on the sequence being judgment in the house of Yahuwah. There are 14 dreams that can be found on the YouTube playlist, wherein the Ruach of the Father was revealing to me and even to other people what is happening in the assembly. And I want to just highlight the difference between prophecy and word of knowledge. In the case of the series that we've just gone through, being judgment begins in the house of Yahuwah, Yahuwah showing me what is already happening in the house of His house, what is already happening in the assembly, which means that was the word of knowledge. In the contrast, when we start the section, which is the second event, which is times of distress, most of the messages that we'll be getting there are prophetic in nature. They are prophecies because they haven't been fulfilled. So they are things that Yahuwah has revealed to me, either in dreams and in visions, as well as other people as well, concerning what is to come, so that we can prepare ourselves. If we go to the book of Revelation, chapter 1, the book of Revelation from chapter 1 to chapter 3, Yahusha repeatedly says, "Let him who has ears hear what the Spirit is saying to the assemblies." Constantly on all this, as he's speaking to the 7 assemblies in Asia, he constantly repeated these words, "Let him who has ears hear what the Spirit is saying to the assemblies." The word here in Hebrew means Shema. Shema does not only mean hear, but it means hear, obey, and act. There is no point in hearing only, but not acting on what you have obeyed, not acting on what you have heard. Even the word tells us that any man who hears the word but does not act according to what he has heard is like someone who looks at himself in the mirror and afterward he has forgotten how he looks like. So the purpose of these messages that we are going through, which are part of the end time sequence of events, are not just that we hear, but that we hear, obey, and act. And if we do not act according to what we've heard, then we have no one else to blame but ourselves to blame for not hearing or not acting on what we have heard. In this second event, which is the times of distress, we will see there that there is a combination of teaching as well as prophecies. So according to the steps, then the first one was the judgment begins in the house of Yahuwah. The second one, we are now dealing on the second step or the second event, which is the distressing times. What do we know about how Yahuwah operates or how he does things. It's very important that we understand the ways of Yahuwah. The word tells us that Yisrael or Israel knew the acts of Yahuwah, but Moshe knew the ways of Yahuwah. So he has revealed to us, his children, his ways, how he does things. And for us, then we're able to look in how he does things, and then we can be able to learn from that. Even just as the book of Ecclesiastes says, that what has been will be, nothing new under the sun. The whole point of Yahuwah revealing to us through his word what has been in the past, so that we can prepare ourselves and know how to act in the future. Now, with that being said, we have seen in the past, and that's we'll go through a number of examples of the past in this regard. But we have seen in the past that Yahuwah brings about the judgment when the sins of people have reached its state of maximum, or its ultimate stage. And we see this in the book of Parashith chapter 15 verse 16, or Genesis 15 verse 16. It says, Yahuwah is now speaking to Abram, and concerning the covenant that he was entering with Abram about the seed, the land, and all the promises. Yahuwah then says to Abram, then in the fourth generation they shall return here. He is now referring to the seed of Abram, the children of Abram, being Yisrael, that Yisrael will return here in the fourth generation. Why? He continues, Yahuwah, to say, for the lawlessness of the Amorite is not yet complete. So we see that Yahuwah acts, not only just how does he act. So we see that Yahuwah will bring about judgment, will bring about deliverance to his people when the lawlessness of either a country or a people have come to its ultimate state or maximum state. That's why he says that yes, your generation will be forced into slavery, but after 400 years I will judge that nation that has taken them to slavery, and I will deliver my people, and I will bring them into their land. So by learning the ways of Yahuwah, we can see that before he brings about judgment, he allows the lawlessness to come to its complete state, to its maximum state, to its ultimate state. And when that happens, then he then judges the nation. When it has come to its ultimate state, he judges the people. And as a result, but when he judges the people, the confidence that we have that we, his children who have been obedient to his ways, we will not be judged with the world, but will be delivered when judgment is taking place into the earth. We will be protected when judgment is taking place into the world. That's the whole purpose of us preparing ourselves, that we are not found wanting like the disobedient ones who will not be hearing these messages and not acting in repentance according to the warnings that have been given beforehand. So in this learning about what has happened in the past, we'll be looking at the lawlessness of Sodom and Amorah. How is it that Yahuwah came to judge Sodom and Amorah? Other people know Amorah as Gomorrah. They normally say Sodom and Gomorrah. So we learn from that Yahuwah came to judge Sodom and Amorah and all the cities around Yarden. So it was not only these two, there were also others that he came to judge. But he judged them when their lawlessness or the lawlessness of these cities had reached their limit. And when he came to judge them because their lawlessness had reached their limit, he delivered Lot and his family. So we always see these parallels. We always see this pattern as I spoke about the ways of Yahuwah. He allowed the lawlessness to happen until its ultimate state, until it reaches its limits. When it reaches its limit, then he judges that nation, those people, that country, but also he delivers his remnant, he delivers his children. That's the first one that we're going to go through and look at in terms of learning from the past, with the idea of we learn from the past so that we can learn and take stock of what to do differently, or when we see what was happening in those countries, more or less to expect what will then happen to us. The second nation that we're going to be looking at is the nation of Mitzrayim, or Egypt. Again, in Egypt, he also allowed the lawlessness of Egypt to reach its limit. When it had reached its limit, as the people were crying out to Yahuwah, then he came and judged Egypt. He came and judged Mitzrayim. And we're going to go through the plagues, which were the judgments of Yahuwah to Egypt. But when he was judging Mitzrayim, when he was judging Egypt, he delivered his people Israel. It's like a pattern. We can always see how he operates, his ways. He allows lawlessness to come to its maximum or to reach its limit. Then he comes and judges that nation, but he will always deliver his people. In the midst of the judgment that is taking place, he will protect and deliver his people. The last one that we're going to be looking at, so we're going to start with Sodom and Amorah. The second one, we're going to look at Mitzrayim, or Egypt. And then the third one that we're going to be looking at is the times of Noah. Again, in the times of Noah, the whole world had reached, the whole world had committed lawlessness to the extent that it had reached its limit. And when that happened, Yahuwah came and judged the entire world by destroying it with flood. But when he destroyed the entire world with flood, we see him delivering Noah and his family. Again, this is what to expect in our generation, that when the lawlessness of the generation that we are living in has reached its limit, he will judge the world. And but he will deliver us, his children, who are obedient to his commands. That is for this reason that we are given this historical event to learn from and know what to happen, or what is to happen in the future. Yahusha said, for then, referring to the end times, and I'm quoting this from the book of MatithYahu, or Mathew chapter 24, verse 21. Yahusha said, for then there shall be a great distress. Remember, this event is looking at the distressing times, or times of distress. Yahusha said, for then there shall be great distress, such as not been seen since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. And if those days were not shortened, no flesh will be delivered. But for the sake of the chosen ones, those days, those Yomim, shall be shortened. Now, The reason why we are going to be revisiting this lawlessness, judgment, and deliverance of Sodom and Amorah, or Sodom and Gomorrah, of Mitzrayim or Egypt, of the times of Noah, we're going to them to say, if Yahusha says the times, or the times of distress that will happen, or the distress that will happen to us, this last generation, it will not be compared, it will not be similar or look like anything that has happened in the past. That even though we might think that there were distresses that happened in Sodom and Amorah, in Mitzrayim, in the times of Noah, even though we think that there might be those plagues, judgment that happened, our times though cannot ever even be compared to those. This is a very serious statement, very, very, very serious statement to ponder on and say, we thought what happened to Sodom and Amorah, or Sodom and Gomorrah, was the ultimate. We thought what happened to Egypt, Mitzrayim, was the ultimate. We thought what happened in the times of Noah with the flood, destroying the entire world, was the ultimate. But Yahusha is still telling us that in our times, it will be worse than anything that has ever been since the beginning of the world. Not even anything can be compared to it. It is important that we take this statement seriously and ponder and pause on it. The reality is that the things that happened in the times of Noah, the sins, the lawlessness committed in the times of Lot, the lawlessness committed in the times of Mitzrayim, lawlessness committed in the times of Noah, are already happening in our times. Whether you know it or not, it is already happening. So with that being said, we are now going to pause here, and then we're going to be just looking at zooming into what was the lawlessness that was happening in the times of Lot. What were the sins that were committed in the times of Lot? Because after those sins of lawlessness were committed, judgment came, but deliverance for his obedient one happened. And as we look at this lawlessness in the times of Lot, Mitzrayim, and Noah, we need to be asking ourselves, are we not already committing the very same sins? And the truth is, yes, we are already committing the very same sins. And it's actually worse in our times, because Yahusha is fair. He cannot say that our judgment will be worse than anything that has ever happened since the beginning of the world if our sins or our lawlessness is below that which has already happened. So our judgment is going to be worse because our lawlessness is worse. But we're going to start by benchmarking it and say, what were they doing and what we are already doing? We will stop there for now, and then we'll be looking at the lawlessness of Lot's time.